Hi, it's me, Aki from Bringforth. This is set 76, part 1, and I just had the scariest dream I've ever had, like by a long distance. And I'm going to describe the entire dream in as much detail as I can while I still remember it clearly. I was sitting on my computer in my old room in my parents' house, and I was watching space videos and I was commenting on the end of the videos to the person making them and not at the beginning, and I was asking things like, could you show if this and this is possible, like to a space commentator. I was asking if it's something like possible to make 10 black holes in a very specific pattern or something along those lines, and it was. It wasn't really relevant to what I'm doing in the next thing. And I was talking on Bringforth and making a video and explaining the Kardashev rating system, which is a system of determining how much energy a civilization or a being has. And I was saying that most civilizations go the route of one planet or one star or one body, whereby they are that body and that is the civilization. So that, for example, most of these are STO civilizations, where they go the path of the specific object that they are or the object that they are on, while some civilizations develop individuality or individuation, and they most of them go STS. And to show what it is like to be an STS civilization like our own, I connected with my spiritual core, which was about 3 times more to the sideways than it is from the Kardashev 1 or less than 1, where we currently are, to Kardashev 3, which is a civilization that is able to use the entire energy of a galaxy. It was about 3 times more sideways. And I basically felt or jumped into Satan at the end of the scale, and I pulled myself back to my physical body, and it was the most real and scary feeling of being in or in contact with Satan I have ever had by a long distance. And I felt like something was reaching for me at the back of my heart, trying to grab me. Burn mark in hand, looks like a stigmata. And I got up and walked downstairs, and my parents were in the kitchen, and the door was closed, and they were either talking or arguing or something which they did often. And I knocked on the door and explained to them that I just had a vision, because I was absolutely sure I was awake, that I just had the scariest vision I've ever had. And I told them the short of it, that I was telling people, I don't think I actually told them that I was online and telling people how the STS civilizations differ from the STO civilizations. But I may have told them. Either way, I told them that I saw Satan in a vision and that it was in my room. And we all got up and went to my room, and they basically concurred with me that there was something wrong in the space. And we noted the presence, and there was a investigation of sorts. We were exploring the room and the space, and they were concurring with me that something was there, or my mother was more strongly concurring with me, and my father was being an atheist of sorts, but he was also kind of concurring with me. He was thinking that it was some kind of mental aberration of mine. And at some point, due to the investigation, there was a loud music-like noise in my balcony, and it was because we tried to close the door sorry, the door to the balcony was open because I think I got to take some air, and there was a windstorm out there, or a winter storm, and the door wouldn't close properly, and it kept banging. And my father said to me that it won't close until we get it was a long lumber key, but it was a key in the balcony, and I was wearing a towel only, and I said that even though it's snowy out there, I'll go grab it. And then a kind of music played in the balcony, and my father said that we can actually close it because the music is closing it. And we pulled it close, and we were downstairs, I believe, before this. And it's possible we were downstairs after this. It's a little fuzzy, because it felt to happen at almost the same time. And my father was telling me that this is basically unreal or untrue, because there is no life after death, or there is no spirit, as they would describe. He didn't say life after death, and he was kind of smothering me to try to make me or keep me sane. And there was no struggle, but I pushed him off. And I said to him, please don't have this argument with me, because I will win. I can prove that there is life after death very easily. And this doesn't in any way involve killing you. There is no need for that. I can just prove that there is life after death very easily. And my mother was with me and said that don't argue with him, he'll win. To me, in that my father will lose. And he said to him that, don't argue, but she was saying it to my direction. And I said that because my father kind of insisted that can a person who remembers somebody who is dead talk on that dead person's behalf? In other words, can I say that because I knew somebody better than somebody else, that I know what they would prefer after death or at the point of death? And he said, of course, because if you know him better, you can talk to him in the absence of somebody else. And this is a reasonable answer, because if you think about it, we are legally obligated to talk for the dead for things like burial services and what to do with the corpse and so on. So we can talk for the dead in a legal sense. So then I said, and what if real death is being forgotten about, so that the actual paradise is being in the Christian burial yard, and thus not being forgotten about, so that death is actually forgetting, and while we remember the person, we can talk for the person, and the person can talk to us. And thus real death is being forgotten about. And he said that that's actually true, that it's clear that to him now that Christian burial yard is Christian version of paradise, because they are making sure that they remember all the dead in the proper order. And that was basically the end of the conversation. And throughout the dream, I was consistently sure that it was a vision and not actually a dream. I was at no point aware that I was asleep. I was absolutely sure I was awake. And that's about the end of the dream. I can't say that I find the events themselves scary. I wasn't haunted by anyone, and I wasn't in a physical harm, you would say, but explaining online on a video that most civilizations that we would define as civilizations that are individuated, that have individuals in it, are evil, or STS, because that is the way it goes. That when you are an individuated person in a community of souls, you tend to develop a view that your community isn't you. And when you consider the mass of the universe, the fact that most stars and galaxies, I didn't think of galaxies, but I thought of large black holes are STO or good. The mass still basically tells the story, and we end up being STO. But the explanation and the feeling of showing to people for the purpose of seeing what an STO civilization would be like, to jump to that point and then jump back, it was 3 times more, give or take, to the side as opposed to up. So if you take it to comparison, Kardashev 3 civilizations have around the power of every star in a galaxy. In our galaxy, that would be around 600 billion stars. So by this logic, I was somewhere along the lines of perhaps 21 or 2.1 trillion stars of STS, the mass of the evil that surrounded me, or I was falling into, or perhaps tempted, or in other words, tempted into the mass, or or I was tempting the mass by showing what it was. The dream is probably the result of eating a lime, because it has so much vitamin C in it that it knocks heavy metals from their connecting points in the nervous system and flushes them out. So the fresh connections are probably the reason this happened. There's clearly a shape in the shadow behind me. On this side, it's here. It's clearly a shape behind me. Looks like my wings. So that's basically all about the dream. It was the scariest feeling I have ever had in my life, or very close to it anyway. And this could also be a result of talking about the Christian worldview and trying to validate some of their points. It could be a spiritual response to that. It seems likely or possible at the very least. I remember that I said for God to take my sins away many times with religious force after the experience. I was like, in the dream, I was like, God protect me and God save me and God take all my sins away very many times after the experience, and even with my parents' presence, it was like creepy. Reminds me of the old saying that there are no atheists in foxholes. can't think of anything else to talk about in the dream, so I'm probably going to stop the recording soon and upload it. So it's about 2.1 trillion stars worth of evil that I was engulfed in. First time I've ever seen an MMA fight where the microphone echoes. Alright, fighters. Whoa. Okay. Listening to the people in the background to see if there's anything spiritual going on. Of course, the match itself is spiritual. lady holding the banner was clearly Slaanesh. guy subbing for Christianity won the fight. Thinking of going for a smoke. Butt scratcher!